Hello there, beautiful teachers, and welcome to another Vibrant Music Teacher Chat. I'm Nicola Canton, if we haven't met before, and I run a site called Vibrant Music Teaching, as well as many other things, and this YouTube channel. So if you're new here, consider subscribing so that you get the latest teaching ideas, resources, and discussions all around music teaching. Today on the show, we're talking about tracking student progress, and you're going to see my actual process for tracking student progress. So this is a sheet that I fill in with just a few notes about each student in some key areas. You're going to see the whole process and how it looks and how I keep things brief. And it's all going to be very real. These are my actual students. These are not cherry-picked best case scenarios. These are my real students about 8 weeks into a new year, and I thought this would be a great time to do this. I did this previously, way back at the beginning of this show, probably almost 2 years ago or something, maybe a year and a half ago now. I showed you my process of putting together assignment sheets in InDesign and exactly how I did that. And since then, my process has really changed, so I wanted to show you this part of my new process. Now, today's show is about that special topic, but we'll also be taking questions. So if you have a question, just write question at the start of it so that I make sure to catch all of those at the end in case I miss any in the flow of the show. I try to catch them as I go through, but if you write question at the start, it means I can come back and catch every single one, which makes me happy and make sure you get the support that you need. We'll also be doing our little warm-up together and going through the latest news. So let's get started with the warm-up. Okay, every week, if you're here live and if you're watching on the replay, I'd like you to check in with me and tune in with your breath. So we're going to do this together to start our weeks off right. If you don't do this along with me, well, I'm just some mad woman standing alone in a room on YouTube doing this by myself. If you do it with me, you are connecting to all of these teachers all over the world, and it honestly is a magical thing, as corny as I may sound right now. So do it along with me. Are you ready? You can be sitting or standing, doesn't matter. I want you to reach one hand, right hand, up in the air and breathe in for 3. 1, 2, 3. Out. 1, 2, 3. Reach your left hand up in the air and breathe in for 3. 1, 2, 3. Out. 1, 2, 3. Bring your hands together up overhead and breathe in for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bring your hands down to your heart. Close your eyes and breathe in for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now let that go, shake it off a little bit, and let's get into our musical warm-ups. So we're going to start with solfa, and I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, but my voice is a little... Nothing matters as long as you give it a go, right? Seems like we have a little connection issue here, so I'm just going to check in with that myself. Let's just see if it's working for me, because it may be working for some of you, so I don't want to stop if that's the case. Okay, maybe. Okay, maybe. Maybe it's back. Okay, it's back. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know what the issue is there. Hopefully it'll stay with us for the rest of the show. When that happens, just FYI, the replay always seems to be fine. It's a weird issue. It's happened a couple of times now, but the replay is always just fine. So YouTube sorts it out. It's some weird buffering issue happening with YouTube that I can't quite figure out yet. Promise to research it more and try and sort it out, but when YouTube uploads the video, which normally takes like 15 minutes after the show is over, it always works fine on the playback, which is why I can't figure out what the issue is, because I can't watch it back. But anyway, hopefully it continues okay. We'll move on to our Rhythm Railroad. We're doing our Rhythm Railroad exercise. So this is number 2. We did the first one last week. We're still at one of the easy levels. This is level 2. And we're going to be doing the fast version because I think we can handle it. So do it along with me. We've got the foot on this one for stamp your foot, the heart for touch your chest, the 2 hands for tap with 2 hands. I'll be doing it on the table. You can use your knees. And that's about it. So let's do it along with the playing speed. Beautiful! Each week we just do one of those rhythm warm-ups just to tune ourselves in with our rhythmic brains and get us going for the week. Okay, so what's going on? Latest news. Tell me what's going on in your studio. In mine, I was back from after my teaching break, and then I was in full-on prep mode getting ready for EPTA. So the European Piano Teachers Association of Ireland, the Irish branch of that, invited me to give a talk yesterday here in Dublin in real life. So it was really quite surreal, to be honest, to be going to a place and talking to teachers who are actually in a room. It was in a church, so it was nice and spaced out and everyone was wearing masks and everything. But yeah, it was really great. There was an issue with the screen at the start, but after that we were all fine and we sorted it out, and I think it was really fun. It was great to have a group together. It was a small group, but great to have that real-time interaction. Not that I don't love it here on the show, but it's a different thing to be in the same room, right? And to experience things together. So that was wonderful, and just great to get back out in the real world and do some things again. It does feel like things are a little bit more open here. We definitely still have to watch the situation very closely here. We've got rising case numbers and things, but we do have a reasonable amount open, which is great. And so I had my live thing yesterday, my first in-person talk, and then tonight I have the first show that I'm going to, a real show in a theater. It's mad. I'm going to see the Book of Mormon tonight, and it was something that was booked for 2020 and put off, so I'm really excited for that as well. Getting back out in the world. Rhythm Railroad is fun. Thank you guys. I agree too. Leah, Christmas recital time and our first live musical theatre show in over 2 years. That is so exciting. So yeah, we're getting ready for our Christmas concert here too. I'm going to be doing a mixture of online and offline to suit various students. So we are going to have some offline, which is really fun, in really small groups, like a kind of pod system. But I'm just here in my home, so it's a nice small environment with ventilation I can control and all of that. But that is in just 4 weeks, so we really need to get going on preparing all those performances and everything. So that's what's going on the studio side. And then the only other news I guess I had this week was the vote that I put out there about the teacher turbo boost. If you haven't seen that yet, there's one in the members site in VMT. And there's one in the Facebook group as well. There's 2 in both places. Yeah, not to be confusing, sorry. But there's votes on 2 different things, which is, one is the online Teacher Turbo Boost, which is our 5-day intensive event. It's 3 hours each day for 5 days. We did it last March for the first time at Easter. And I put out a vote to see when you guys would like to do it next year. Because I'm happy to go ahead with it again. I think it was really, really fun, really worthwhile. So we're going to be doing it again, and I put it out to a vote, and I think it's going to be the week leading up to Easter again, which is making some church musicians annoyed. but I did put it to a vote. Have your say on it though. If you're a church musician and you're like, "Ugh, really? Can it not be some other time?" I did give other options. It has to be a time when I am off teaching. So have your say on it. Don't complain later when it ends up being Easter week, because that's what it's looking like right now. And then the other vote is for an event here in Dublin. Now, that still depends on interest and availability and things, but we were supposed to run an event in 2020 in August. I had everything booked and there were some tickets sold and everything when the pandemic happened. Now, thankfully, I was in a position where there was no deposits or nothing lost and we refunded everybody. But I think it might be time that we might be able to do it again. Is that enough qualifiers? Yeah, so that vote is up too. That's looking like it might be August again. That seems to suit people. But have your say on it if you would be willing to travel to Dublin. That will be a 2 full day event. My plan to make it really worthwhile to travel here for, if you're traveling from the UK or Europe or America or wherever, to really make it worth your while, I am going, if we're doing it, my plan is to extend it. So it will be 2 full days of like training stuff, but also a kickoff party the day before and a closing party on the second day. So it's sort of 3 days. You won't have to be there for all 3 if you can't make it, but it means it's more worth it. There's more time with the fellow attendees and everything. So that's the plan. So vote is my point. If you are interested in attending either of those, vote on the time that works for you, because I want it to suit the majority of teachers. And then the last thing is the survey. This is really, really important. If you have already taken our survey, send it to a fellow teacher. If you have not taken it, please take it yourself first, and then when you see how wonderful it is, send it to another teacher. Please. We need to get the numbers up on this. I'm going to be honest with you, the numbers are not actually looking great. I'm hoping we'll at least hit the number we hit last year, but it's going to rely on the community getting this out there. And the reason that's so important, because the more people fill this in, the more representative the data is. This is honestly not worth us doing every year if we can't get the number of survey respondents. And I hope you've all been enjoying these reports. I love reading them. I love putting them together, but they are a labor of love. They are a serious amount of work. And if we don't have enough data to put into them, enough respondents, then it doesn't mean as much, right? Because if you just survey 2 people, it's not just 2 people. But if it were, well, it doesn't really say anything about the industry. So I really want to get this out there. If you have someone you can share it with, if you have a music teacher association you're a part of, please share it with them. Please get the word out. Please encourage them to complete it. It takes about 15 minutes. I know that's not the shortest time, but I have been told by many people that the questions made them think about their studio and that they actually really enjoyed filling it in. This is not a super repetitive annoying survey. I'm sure many of you have filled those in where it seems like you're being asked the same question in multiple different ways. We really try to be thoughtful about it and cover a lot of different aspects. So I hope you enjoy filling it in, and I hope that you'll pass it along. Thank you, Carrie. I'm so glad you enjoy the report. Hoping to keep doing it every single year, but as I say, we need community support behind that. So please share the link. Now, let's get into our main topic of the day, all about student progress. So I have a studio now or a school, maybe you would call it, of 70 students, around 70 students. I don't teach all of those students personally. Honestly, I think 70 students is too many for one teacher in most cases. But if that's your thing, that's fine. It would be too many for me, so I don't want you to get the wrong idea. I have 2 other teachers who work with me, and the students are fairly evenly split, so I have just over 20 myself personally. And alongside keeping track of my students, I keep track of everyone's students. So my studio is not one where each teacher is completely independent and does their own thing. That is one way to run a school, but that's not what I do. What I do is a very integrated thing where I am training the teachers and we're working together and we're developing their lesson ideas together every week. And so I need all of us to be on the same page at all times and to keep track of everything. Having a system like this also means that if one of those teachers moves on and I get a new teacher to replace them, I know where everyone is up to. So I can fill the next teacher in, or I can take them on myself, or whatever the case may be. So that is basically what I need to do. That's my objective from this system. And what we're going to do today is we're going to go through no, we're probably not going to get through all of them, but we're going to start at the beginning of my week. I have purposefully not done my progress updates, which is the sheet you're about to see, for my students this week. I would normally do them kind of as I go through the week, and I would always make sure they're all caught up on Friday. That's kind of my deadline to myself. That's when we have the teacher meeting. So if I've missed a few, that's when I go back and make sure they're all up to date every single week. So we are going to be going through these for these students that I haven't done, which is I haven't done anyone, just for that reason. Normally more of these would be updated, okay? So we would be on time. Anyway, so that's what we're doing. Let's take a look at the sheet. All right, so I'm showing it to you like this so that you don't see the student birthday, age, the date they started, or their name, which are at the top and bottom of the sheet, okay? So you're seeing kind of the center part of the sheet where all the action happens anyway. You'll see here we have the week number along the side, and then we have the date there, so week starting. So I just put the date of Monday, and then that is not the student's lesson day. If you prefer to have just the student's lesson day, that of course works too, but 70 is a lot of students to write down their individual dates, so it's just the week starting that date. So this is the first student. Now this student is quite interesting to start with, because okay, so this student transferred to us, our studio, last year, and she started with a different teacher in our studio, and then this year I ended up taking her on for scheduling reasons, not because she needed me or anything like that, but I ended up with her this year. And so it's a transfer student, right? That we haven't had for that long. We've had her about a year, but that's not that long to sort out the myriad of issues that have cropped up. So you'll see, you can kind of see we've got the same pieces happening. AMB stands for Anna Magdalena Bach notebook, that's what I mean by that. And then 12 Bar Blues is something she's really interested in, but we've got quite a mixture happening here. Now the title at the top here is Current Pieces. Let me see if I can, yeah. So that shows you what that says. These are the ones that we're following. That's Current Pieces, and then, yeah, different titles along here, okay? So these are our current pieces last week. Now, this week, what ended up happening, I start by copy-pasting the pieces of what we already have. However, what I ended up doing this week was actually taking off a whole bunch of stuff and adding on some extra things. So on my other screen here, while we're doing this, I have my Tanara open, just in case I needed to check something. So let me double check which other Christmas piece we ended up doing, because they all end up as a mush in my head. Santa Claus is Coming to Town was the other one. And we added on the where's Octaves. So we've ended up with completely different pieces. And in this case, that's not because she finished the others. It's because I'm still gauging her level. It's kind of all over the place. Her mum has said that she doesn't really practice and kind of, yeah, filled me in on that being a struggle at home consistently, like before she joined us and after she joined us. And it's a little bit sticky, to be honest, because she is telling me that she is practicing and she's a teenager. I'm not going to tell her to her face that I don't believe her. So I'm trying to pick apart Is she really not practicing at all? Or is she finding things more challenging and trying not to let on because she's a bit embarrassed that she doesn't understand things I'm talking about? So I'm trying to pick that apart still, to be honest. And I'm starting to come to the realization that I think we need to go lower with her level than we were last year and than I had been for the start of this year. So I'm going to be taking away the air for a little while. Now, the way I'm saying this to her is that we're focusing on the Christmas concert. She needs to have these pieces ready, so we're focusing on those. So I've taken the others off to Nara. But even like the Largo she was struggling with, and that is a piano pronto arrangement. Like it's not extremely difficult for the level she's supposed to be at, but it is proving to be challenging. And basically anything where she does like, so these Christmas arrangements are a little bit more challenging than this one. However, she does know the tune, so that makes it easier. So they're about the same level of challenge for her. Anyway, so that's where we're at. So there was definitely no practice at all this time. She seemed very lost. So the heading in this column is practice. Then we have this column might look like it's rhythm, but it's actually reading. And what happened in this lesson was she mixed up all these different mnemonics she had in her head. I didn't even realize she was using mnemonics. Maybe that's my fault, but it's never come up before. And she was kind of finding note names okay. The struggle was intervals, but then she got all the mnemonics muddled up and she was really hard on herself about it, which hurt my heart. So I kind of had a chat with her about how I don't teach mnemonics for this reason, because it just ends up in extreme frustration because you mix them up. So I let her know she wasn't alone, but still, yeah, she seemed quite stressed by that, but she definitely hadn't done anything in terms of practice. So now we're on memory. And we're giving up on the memory project. So she was working on memory in terms of the Christmas piece, because everyone's been doing that as a little project in memorization. Some of them are continuing to memorize because they've really taken to it, they love it. Some, it was a good experience, but they need to read it for the concert, and that's absolutely fine with us. We don't do a ton of memorization, just every so often. So we've gone back to reading with that. Under reading, I'm just going to write method book needed, because I think she needs a much more structured, much more step-by-step approach than I initially thought after what I saw this last week. That's the theory title there. And then we didn't get to scales today. That's my technical exercises column. This is an online student, so where I'm saying restricted view, that's where I can't see her technique because the setup wasn't the way it was before. So that's the first student. That's all I'm writing. It's just a little quick update. I hope that gives you some idea of what I'm doing here. You'll see a lot of columns as we go through different students. Some of them just say good, 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 good for week upon week, and that's fine. This is about having a way for me to look back and see patterns more than anything else. So it should be brief and manageable for each teacher to do, because you need to do it every single week to make it work. But let me know if you have any questions about the system as we work through. So this next student is someone who makes quite slow, steady progress. He does practice. Coordination is definitely a challenge, but he practices steadily and does make progress. Yeah, you know, Kyle, yeah, they can be a nightmare. I like to try and see the positive, and the positive is that I get to expose them to things they haven't met before. So like last year, she had never improvised before, and she did tons of improvisation with this other teacher, and she is a absolute natural. As much as I don't like that word, she is awesome at improv. So we try to emphasize the strengths while trying to fill in and figure out the weaknesses and the misinformation that they have. Yeah, I can share the column titles with you again. I'm just zoomed in so that I can show you. Oh, hang on, that's weird. Oh, right, yeah. Okay, let me just adjust that slightly. Bear with me. Okay, that should be about the right view for the rest. I forgot that one student was different in terms of what was on the sheet. So those are the titles up the top. And so you can see them a little bit longer. Let's just freeze that row because that can stay on the screen then. Okay, so this student, we did start a new piece, but he still has all of these as well. So I'm just going to add that in. Oh, by the way, this is a template. You can get this template inside VMT. So if you're a Vibrant Music Teaching member and you're watching, go to the video library because there's a tutorial on how to use the sheet alongside the download of the sheet itself if you want to use it. Yes, it is in the information below the video. Exactly. Just tap more if you see the info box on YouTube, depending on what device you're on. You should have to just tap view more or something like that. Okay, so then practice. So this one. He had done much less on bluebells than everything else, but otherwise it was pretty steady, pretty up to his usual speed. This week, oral work. He did some good oral stuff in buddy time with the other student. Rainbow color still has an error at the end. For some reason, it just changes that ending, but otherwise it's good. That's a rote piece from Piano Safari. Lee, it is visible on an iPad as well. There's a tap view more or something. There's a little dot button below or beside the video. It sort of changes. Reading. Dromedary dance is what that stands for. So again, these are notes for me. Normally, I realize I'm showing them to you, but they only need to make sense to you if you're using this sheet. It doesn't, yeah. It doesn't have to be like parent ready or anything, or have great grammar or full sentences or anything. It's just about speed and being able to notice patterns. So like, this is actually a really good example. Do you see here under oral, better than before, and then I said more missed octaves, better with octaves, more missed octaves, no missed octaves, no missed octaves. So that's something we were working on, where he kept muddling up this octave with that octave, like playing on the wrong C, for example. And so that's a pattern I was noticing, and we did some extra work on that. But without noting that it was happening several weeks in a row, I might not have highlighted it to myself as much, yeah? Technical exercises. I'm just going to write back to basics. We need to start all his scales again. As I said, he has struggles with coordination. This is partially totally my fault, so I'll take the blame here. Summer happened, and that's always a time when students forget things or whatever, miss out on things. When we came back, I wasn't consistent as you can see, didn't get to scales. I wasn't consistently getting to his scales because I had a lot else to cover, and this is a slower paced student generally. But that was my error because he has totally forgotten the coordination. Maybe it would have happened anyway because the summer happened, but I should have gotten to them sooner. So we need to start again at the beginning. Not going to make him feel bad about that. We're just going to restart the scales, work on them step by step again, right from C, even though he knows all the white key scales. But we need to start again with the coordination. Yeah, this same note applies. So that's something we're going to have to work on, where he's scooching his hands all the way into the black keys. Okay, next student. We do reports for parents that follow these same kind of headings pretty much, actually, Carlin. So, not current pieces. Practice, oral, memory. These headings are pretty much what we use in our progress updates. Those are like written out more as full sentences, etc., like you're explaining, but they are basically kind of summarizing the trends we've seen for the full term in a parent-friendly way and under the same headings. And again, there is a template for that inside the Vibrant Music Teaching Library for any members who are looking for that. We do that twice a year just because otherwise it does get very overwhelming. So you don't want to overdo it. And, many parents won't read it, especially if it's very, very often. So you want to sort of balance those two factors. Angie? Neither. I generally do these reports the next day. However, I have found that the longer I've been teaching, the more I remember all of these details about students. So like in this case, I've left it a week and I still remember pretty much everything that happened in that lesson. But the next day, I definitely can remember the full lesson and all the major notes that occurred to me during it. However, that wasn't true at the beginning of my teaching, and it is certainly not true for the other teachers who work here who are less experienced. So they have found that they need to do it at the end of the day, for example. And they tried doing it the next morning, it just didn't happen, and they couldn't remember all the details, so they both ended up deciding the same thing, which is I'll do it before I clock off each evening. It's just better for me that way because I remember everything and I'm fresh on it. But I don't try and fill this in during a lesson. I have enough to do. I've got their assignments and stuff to do as well. Okay, so next student. We've got Fry Friends, Deck the Halls, Kettle Corn. Now, this student is doing really great this year with practice and making good progress. So yeah, you do see Safari Friends coming up again and again. If you haven't used Piano Safari, you won't know how long that piece is, but that's not a crazy pace for that, especially at the beginning of a year. What you may notice as I go through a lot of my students here is you'll see a lot of repetition of pieces. That isn't true later in the year. However, I wanted to show this to you at the start of the year and be honest about it because this is a trend I've noticed. The first 2 months, we get stuck on pieces. Like it happens every time. And so if that is happening for your students, that's okay and that's normal. If your students race at the start of the year, that's fine and dandy too. But for me, the first couple of months of a new year, we need to, slowly get the gears turning. And then it gets faster and faster and the train gets moving and they move through assignments much faster. I also think it's a major factor that I don't carry through pieces from before the summer. So if there's something they were working on that was almost there, in 90% of cases, we just forget it and move on to something else that teaches the same concept or know that it'll be covered later, right? So they're starting a whole set of brand new pieces at the start of the year. So it's kind of natural that as we move through the year, there's more pieces at different levels of study, like pieces they've been studying for a while or pieces that only took a week or two, and so there's more movement. But yeah, these lists may look a little stagnant to you, but I wanted to show them to you anyway because that's the reality sometimes. Anyway, so this student is also doing Dancing with Fireflies now. and Black Kite, which is a Sam Coates rote piece. I don't write things like technical exercises or anything like that here. It's not the only way I track their assignments. It's just the current pieces. And I do it to keep track of these kinds of trends. Like, is there something they're getting stuck on that they shouldn't? For example, if a prairie dog companion was all the way down to here, that would be pretty troubling for me in terms of the students' practice, their reading of steps and skips, etc., etc. Yeah, Janine, I do find it to be a good way to focus. And it's something I've come to over time. And it's one of those things where I believe these things should evolve over time, right? So I am not here to tell you I will be doing this for the rest of time. This is my system and this is the best system forever. I think you need to keep changing these things because you learn new things from different systems. So this is my current one. It's working well for us right now. Practice again was excellent, which is impressive because it was Halloween break. So that's really good. And this student really didn't practice last year, so this is great news for me. It's moving much better. It seems much more focused in general. Sorry, let's just freeze that top. I know the title's off now, so I don't have it frozen, but there you go. So oral. It was really good last week as well. Doing great with that. We mostly covered that during his buddy time and it goes really well. This is a fun thing that keeps happening and it happened again. So the final lion part in Safari Friends keeps being missing in his memory, so that's something we need to emphasize, but otherwise his reading is going very well. Oh, his memory, excuse me. Reading progress in general. He used to be a student who was really ungritty. You just, something would be challenging and it would just be an throw your hands in the air kind of attitude. Like, why am I not getting it? But he's much better at sticking with things, which is wonderful. We're starting written work this week. That's true of a lot of my students, so I'm just making a note of it so that I don't forget anyone's theory book that needs one. It was a little too dramatic this time. The lift off, which is it's like a slur ending. It's in Safari Friends. That's kind of what it's preparing them for. But he did it too big, so it was taking too long. So I need to work on him with minimizing that. But it's a good motion. He's doing it the right way. Stronger still. It's definitely every week his fingers are getting stronger. He's playing more into the keys, which is great. Yeah, luckily it's about finding a time that works for you. The next morning might not be a time when you can remember anything. If it is the case that the evening would be the best, maybe this is a goal for you in terms of scheduling in the future, that you schedule this as your planning time at the end of the day, or that you do it in the middle of the day. You have a break, so you have fewer students to do and you kind of break it up like that. You have to find a pacing and a time that works for you. Carrie, this is really part of the lesson planning process, but the way we do the lesson planning is the three teachers, me and the two other teachers, we come together for a meeting every week and we use this sheet. It's actually in order of the week, by the way, so it is organized. The tabs at the bottom for each student, they are in order of the week. And I'll just come on screen to talk to you for a sec. So we have it in order of the week and we use this in our meeting. So we go through each student, we talk about, we all have this open, so we're looking at what were the notes this week, if there's any you'll see there's an other notes column there. So if there was anything extra that they needed to note, especially the other teachers to me, like don't know what to do about XYZ. So we use that, and then they are taking written notes in notebooks they both found. Again, both happened to find that that's what suits them. They prefer having it written in on paper, and I tend to agree that, especially as you're learning these kind of systems and getting more used to teaching in your beginning years, writing out by hand makes things stick better. It just does. So they both find that useful. So we do that lesson planning sort of based on this, plus what's in Tonara, plus what we have going on in the studio generally. I hope that helps. They're also both usually following, so if they have students that are right at the beginning, they're following some kind of set of lesson plans for them, such as tiny finger takeoff, mini musicians, piano power booster, those kinds of plans. So it's also based on that in terms of their structure. And what was I going to say? Oh yeah, if they have buddy students, they've also tend to align that to a piano power booster plan. So they have that as the main thing, and then a few rotating items that they're planning. Hope that helps. I'm going to double check for questions now, because we're almost out of time. Time always flies when I share an actual process like this. I need to remember that. Oh, I'm not sure if someone did put in the link, so I'm just going to do that now. Corey had asked for the link to the survey. That's the short link that will get you there. Janine, the chord crash course. Love the major backing tracks. How can I find the minor chord backing tracks on the VMT site? Are they not part of the same set, Janine? I'm going to have to get back to you on that. So can you email support for me? support@vibrantmusicteaching.com, or when you're on the member site, there's a little speech bubble in the bottom right hand corner. Just click on that and write to us there, because I'm going to need to double check that for you. Good, I think I've answered the other questions as we've gone through here. Wow, okay, I think this has been fun. Let me know if you want me to continue this next week, or if you want me to share again, maybe in a few weeks, I'm not sure. The other thing we didn't get to today, by the way, is the book club. That's not because I forgot, it's because I don't have the book yet. It's not come. It was supposed to come like the end of last week, and it didn't. So book delays are a big thing all over the world. I'm afraid we're just going to have to wait on the book coming, because it's not available wide, meaning it is the only digital version is Kindle, and I don't use a Kindle device, so it's not a wide book, as we call it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this chat. I hope you come back again next week. It was great to have you here, and let me know anything extra that you want to hear about, any topics you want us to cover. We're always all ears for that. Thanks, guys, and see you next week. Bye.